I always thought I had a pretty normal life. Nothing special, nothing tragic, just a steady, predictable existence. My name is Ethan, and I've been married to Claire for 7 years. No kids, just the two of us, living in a cozy suburban house with a mortgage that felt like an unwanted roommate. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. She worked in marketing, and I ran a small IT consulting business from home. Life was routine, but I liked it that way. Then everything changed. It started with little things. Claire's phone was suddenly always face down, which wasn't a habit she used to have. She started working late more often, which wasn't unheard of, but the frequency increased dramatically. The intimacy between us had taken a nosedive, and she always had an excuse: too tired, too stressed, not in the mood. At first, I chalked it up to work pressure. Everyone has rough patches, right? But then came the perfume. A new scent. A stronger, sultrier fragrance that I know she never wore around me. I asked about it once, and she laughed it off, saying it was just a gift from a coworker. Something didn't sit right with me, but I ignored it. I told myself I was overthinking. Then, about 3 weeks ago, she started using the phrase, "I need some time to myself." That was new. Claire had never been the "I need space" kind of person. We had always been close, at least, I thought we were. Still, I didn't push. I wanted to be the understanding husband, the guy who gives his wife the room she needs without acting like a paranoid lunatic. So I let it slide. Until one night when she came home too late. It was a Thursday. She had left for a work dinner around 6 p.m. I stayed home, ordered pizza, and played some online poker to kill time. By 10 p.m., she still wasn't back. At 11 p.m., I texted her. No response. At midnight, I called. Straight to voicemail. I sat in the dark living room, staring at my phone, waiting. My heart wasn't just pounding, it was like a jackhammer in my chest. At 12:47 a.m., she finally walked in, her hair a mess, cheeks flushed, and that same new perfume lingering in the air. "Hey," she said casually, kicking off her heels. "Sorry, my phone died." She was too calm. Too comfortable lying. It hit me like a freight train, she wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. That night, as she showered, I sat on the edge of our bed and felt something inside me break. I had been ignoring the signs for too long. I had been the fool. And I was done being played. After that night, I stopped being the clueless, trusting husband. I needed answers. I needed to know the truth, no matter how much it would hurt. The next morning, Claire acted like nothing had happened. She was humming in the kitchen, making coffee like she hadn't waltzed in past midnight with a guilty look in her eyes. I played along. If she could pretend, so could I. But I had a plan. I started with the simplest thing, checking our shared phone bill. Claire wasn't the most tech-savvy person, so she never thought to delete the records from our account. I logged in and checked her call logs. One number stood out immediately. It showed up almost every day, sometimes multiple times. I copied the number and ran it through a reverse lookup. The name that popped up made my stomach turn. It was Daniel Carter. Her co-worker. The guy she had mentioned a few times over the last 6 months. "Oh, Daniel said the funniest thing today," or "Daniel had the best idea for the campaign." I had never thought anything of it. But now, I felt like an idiot for not seeing the pattern. I wasn't about to confront her without hard evidence. I needed more. The next night, Claire said she was meeting her friends for dinner. I smiled, nodded, and kissed her goodbye like the loving husband I had always been. But as soon as she drove off, I grabbed my keys and followed. I stayed a few cars back, keeping my distance. My heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. My hands were sweating against the steering wheel. I told myself I was overreacting. That I was going to feel stupid when I saw her sitting in some restaurant with her friends. But she didn't go to a restaurant. She pulled into a hotel parking lot. And she wasn't alone. Daniel was already there, leaning against his car, waiting for her. She stepped out of the car, and my world shattered. She didn't just greet him, she jumped into his arms, laughing as he spun her around. Then she kissed him. Not a peck. Not a friendly, playful kiss. A deep, slow, intimate kiss. My hands tightened on the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I wanted to storm over there, rip her away from him, and demand an explanation. But what was there to explain? The evidence was right in front of me. I forced myself to stay put. I needed proof. I pulled out my phone and took pictures. Multiple angles. Video 2. Claire and Daniel, wrapped around each other like newlyweds. The way she looked at him like he was her entire world made me sick. She had never looked at me like that. They disappeared inside the hotel. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the entrance. I felt numb. Empty. I had all the proof I needed. Now it was time to destroy her world. I barely slept that night. The image of Claire wrapped around Daniel played in my mind like a broken record. The worst part? She came home around midnight, just like the last time. Same routine, kicked off her shoes, acted like nothing happened. I didn't confront her right away. I needed to be smart. I wanted her to feel this. The next evening, I told her I had made dinner reservations for us at an upscale restaurant. She seemed surprised but excited. I watched her get ready, knowing this was the last time I'd ever see her as my wife. At dinner, I played it cool. I let her talk about her day, pretending like everything was normal. But my patience was running thin. Halfway through the meal, I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table. "Go ahead, take a look," I said, my voice calm. Claire furrowed her brows but picked up the phone. The second she saw the pictures, her kissing Daniel, walking into that hotel, her face drained of color. Her hands started to shake. "Ethan," she whispered, looking up at me with wide, panicked eyes. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed. "Go on. I'm waiting for the excuse." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her breathing was uneven, and for the first time in our marriage, she looked truly afraid of me, not because she thought I would hurt her, but because she knew she had no way out of this. Tears welled up in her eyes. "I didn't mean for this to happen." I laughed. Actually laughed. "You didn't mean to cheat on me? Claire, you planned this. You've been sneaking around for months." She wiped her eyes, sniffing. "It was just a mistake. I swear. It didn't mean anything." I slammed my hand on the table, making her jump. "Don't lie to me. I saw you with him. I saw the way you looked at him. That's not a mistake, Claire. That's a choice." People at nearby tables turned to look, but I didn't care. She covered her face, sobbing. "I love you, Ethan. I do. Please don't do this." I shook my head slowly, disgusted. "You don't love me. You loved sneaking around. You loved the thrill of it. If I hadn't caught you, you'd still be lying to my face." She reached across the table, trying to grab my hand. I pulled away like she was poison. "I can fix this," she begged. "I'll stop seeing him. I'll do whatever it takes." I smiled, a real smile this time. "Oh, don't worry, Claire. You will stop seeing him. Because I already told his wife." Her whole body stiffened. "What?" I took a slow sip of my drink. "Yeah. I found her on Facebook. Sent her everything. She knows exactly what's been going on." Claire gasped, her hand covering her mouth. I could see the gears turning in her head. Daniel was married. His wife would ruin his life. And Claire? She wouldn't be his little secret anymore. I leaned forward. "You're not special to him, Claire. You're just another woman he used. And now, both of you are about to lose everything." She started hyperventilating. "Ethan, please." I stood up, tossing some cash on the table. "Dinner's on me. Consider it my parting gift." And then I walked out, leaving my cheating wife sobbing in front of everyone. I didn't go home that night. There was nothing left for me there. Instead, I crashed at my friend Mark's place. He had gone through a nasty divorce years ago, so when I told him everything, he didn't ask questions. Just handed me a beer, clinked his bottle against mine, and said, "Burn her to the ground, man." And that's exactly what I planned to do. The first step was making sure Claire had no idea what was coming. The morning after the confrontation, she called me 14 times. Left voicemails. Sent desperate texts. "Claire, Ethan, please come home. We need to talk. Claire, I know I messed up, but don't throw everything away like this. Claire, I love you. We can fix this." I ignored every single one. Instead, I spent the morning with my lawyer. A brutal, no-nonsense woman named Lisa who had handled Mark's divorce. She took one look at my evidence and smirked. "She's in for a rough time," Lisa said. That was the plan. Step 2 was the financial cleanup. Claire and I had a joint account, but I had my own personal savings too. I moved every last cent of my personal funds into a new, private account. Cancelled our shared credit card. Changed all my passwords. Claire would wake up to find she suddenly had a lot less access to my money. Step 3? The house. Technically, it was my house. I had bought it before we got married. Claire had never contributed a dime to the mortgage. I filed to have her removed from it immediately. By noon, Claire finally stopped calling. By 3 p.m., she must have checked our bank account, because that's when she started again. "Claire, where did all our money go? Claire, Ethan, answer me. Please, I need to talk to you." I didn't respond. Instead, I made sure the next part of my revenge went into effect. Remember Daniel? The guy she threw our marriage away for? His wife had responded to my messages. She wasn't just mad. She was out for blood. By 6 p.m., Daniel's wife had posted the proof everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, even LinkedIn. Screenshots of the texts, the hotel meetups, the dates they had gone on behind my back. Claire and Daniel weren't just cheaters anymore. They were publicly exposed cheaters. And just to twist the knife? I sent the link to all of Claire's family. Then I went home. She was waiting for me, sitting on the couch, her face puffy and red from crying. The moment she saw me, she jumped up, rushing toward me like everything was normal. "Ethan, we need to talk." I sidestepped her. "No, you need to pack your things and get out." Her face crumpled. "What?" "I filed for divorce this morning. You're no longer on the mortgage. You have nothing left here, Claire. Get out." She started sobbing again. "I don't have anywhere to go." "Daniel," she stopped, realizing her mistake. I smirked. Daniel's wife obliterated him online. He's probably too busy begging her not to take everything from him. I'd bet good money he won't be opening his door for you. She sank to her knees, clutching her head. "Ethan, please. I made a mistake. I wasn't thinking. I love you." I stared at her, cold and emotionless. "You love yourself," I said. "And now? You get to be alone with yourself." Then I turned, walked upstairs, and locked the bedroom door behind me. Claire's screams echoed through the house, but I didn't care. She made her choice. Now she had to live with it. Claire stayed in the house for another 2 days. She knew she had nowhere else to go, and I wasn't going to physically drag her out, though I considered it. I let her stay in the guest room while I locked myself in the bedroom. We didn't speak. I didn't acknowledge her existence. On the 3rd day, she finally knocked on my door. "Ethan, please," she said, her voice hoarse. "Just talk to me." I stared at the door, debating whether to ignore her again. But then I realized this was it. The final conversation. The last time I would ever give a damn about what she had to say. So I opened the door. She looked like hell. Her eyes were swollen, her hair was a mess, and she was wearing the same clothes from the day before. This wasn't the put-together, confident Claire I had known for years. This was a woman watching her entire life fall apart. And I felt nothing. She hesitated, then stepped inside, wringing her hands. "I know I hurt you," she started. "And I know you probably hate me." "I don't hate you, Claire," I said flatly. "I pity you." She flinched like I had slapped her. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I was just. I don't know. I was lost. I got caught up in something stupid. But it didn't mean anything, Ethan. I swear." I laughed. "Didn't mean anything? You loved sneaking around. You weren't lost, Claire. You were selfish." Tears welled up in her eyes again. "I made a mistake." "No," I interrupted. "You made a choice. Over and over again. Every time you texted him. Every time you met him at that hotel. Every time you came home and lied to me. You chose this." She shook her head, wiping her face. Can we fix this?" That was the moment I realized how delusional she was. I scoffed. "Fix what?" "Claire, there's nothing left. You destroyed it." She collapsed onto the bed, burying her face in her hands. "I don't know what to do," she whispered. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Here's what you're going to do. You're going to pack your things. You're going to leave this house. And you're going to figure it out. Because I am done." Her shoulders shook as she sobbed. "I don't have anywhere to go." I tilted my head. "Then call Daniel." She let out a broken laugh, shaking her head. "His wife took everything. He's sleeping in his car." I smirked. "Well, you two deserve each other. Maybe you can share the back seat." That was the final nail in the coffin. She looked up at me, realization dawning in her eyes. She had lost. There was nothing left for her here. She stood up slowly. "I loved you, Ethan," she said, voice trembling. I looked her dead in the eyes. "No, Claire. You loved yourself." And with that, I walked out of the room, leaving her behind. That was the last time we ever spoke. Claire left the next morning. I didn't ask where she was going, and I didn't care. She packed her bags in silence, dragging her suitcases down the stairs like a ghost of the life we once had. She paused at the door, probably hoping I'd say something, anything. I didn't. She turned, her voice barely above a whisper. "Goodbye, Ethan." The door clicked shut behind her, and just like that, she was gone. I stood there for a long time, staring at the empty space where she had been. I expected to feel something, relief, victory, maybe even a little regret. But all I felt was empty. The next few weeks were a blur. I filed the final divorce papers. My lawyer assured me that, given the evidence, Claire wouldn't be getting a single cent more than what was legally required. The house was mine. The accounts were secure. And my life, for the first time in years, was finally mine again. I blocked Claire's number. I changed the locks. I threw away everything that reminded me of her. At first, the silence in the house was suffocating. I had spent 7 years building a life with someone who turned out to be a stranger. But as the days passed, the silence became peaceful. The weight of betrayal slowly lifted. Claire's world, on the other hand, crumbled. Her family disowned her after they saw the evidence. Her friends distanced themselves, not wanting to be associated with a woman who got publicly exposed for cheating. She lost her job not because of the affair, but because Daniel's wife sent their employer everything, and HR didn't appreciate employees using company time for hotel meetups. As for Daniel, his wife divorced him, took their house, and left him with nothing. The last I heard, he was couchsurfing at a friend's place, trying to rebuild his life from scratch. Karma did its job. But me? I moved on. It wasn't easy. The anger, the pain, the humiliation, it all lingered longer than I wanted it to. But I refused to let Claire's betrayal define me. I focused on my business, hit the gym, and reconnected with old friends. One night, Mark and I grabbed drinks at a bar downtown. I caught a woman at the other end of the room looking at me. She had that look, the kind of look Claire used to give me before everything fell apart. For the first time in a long time, I smiled. Claire was nothing but a bad memory now. And my life? It was just getting started.